This is crazy. I'm talking crazy, 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 crazy. Stop everything. Pay attention. If you're driving, pull over.
It's going all around the internet. France's first lady is accused of actually being a man. Is this like Big Mike? Is this the biggest political scandal in human history, like Candace Owens says? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants and Satan, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. I'm glad you're here. We have some investigative journalism to do, but also I want to say I'm looking forward to being in the following cities coming up, doing my stand-up show: Lexington, Kentucky, Oklahoma City, Tacoma, Washington, Buffalo, Raleigh, North Carolina. More to be announced soon, but you can grab tickets at my website, awakenwithjp.com, also in the link below. Now, this is going around the internet like wildfire. France's president, Macron, can't say I'm a fan. Rumors are swirling that his wife, the first lady of France, is actually a man. We'd say, what is going on? The same rumors have been swirling around about Obama and his wife, Michelle, for years. And here you can see Obama and Michelle, and I'm pretty sure this is a photoshopped photo to make Michelle look more like a man, which is that proof? I don't know. If you can Photoshop it, it's true. Regardless of what your opinion is on Obama and Big Mike, we have to have fresh critical thinking. I would dare say the World Economic Forum that runs France's Macron, are they pulling some sort of deceptive tactic over people, and that he's been married to a man pretending to be a woman for whatever reason? To me, this story, the possibility of it being true, it's only relevant because it would be a world leader actively deceiving people. So we're going to get into what Candace says about the story. She has staked her entire career on the story, whatever that means. And we'll look at Candace Owens' evidence of it. She is leading the charge. In fact, let me show you this. On Twitter, Candace says, this episode is blowing up, the one we're going to take a look at. After looking into this, I would stake my entire professional reputation on the fact that Brigitte Macron is in fact a man. Stake her entire professional reputation. Oh, sounds like she's confident. Any journalist or publication that is trying to dismiss this plausibility is immediately identifiable as establishment. That could be. I have never seen anything like this in my life. The implications here are terrifying. I do not intend to let up on this story, and I'm calling on other journalists to look into this explosive story and report accordingly. Now, a lot of people around the internet are reporting accordingly. On Twitter, just some examples of what this looks like going around like wildfire today. Major scandal unfolding. Emmanuel Macron's spouse is a man. And here you can see Emmanuel with his wife, maybe, who is 24 years his senior. By the way, they met allegedly in drama school. He was her student. Yikes, I believe he was 15 and she was 39. That math definitely doesn't add up, but there was an age gap and allegedly he was her student. We also see things like this. 3 years of research from journalists who have discovered that France's president Macron's wife is a man. Now everything about them makes sense. And this post, Candace says, insane. This is the biggest political scandal in human history. The French president Emmanuel Macron, 46 years old, married to Brigitte Macron, 70 years old, was his drama teacher when he was 15, she was 39. Okay, well, they said it on Twitter, so it's definitely true. What, are you serious? Well, there's another shocking fact about this relationship. We'll get into that. Brigitte Macron's photos before the age of 30 are non-existent, a fact that has spewed controversy around her whole life, especially after this video broke the internet with claims she's a man. Well, I don't know about you, but I want to see this video that shows the fact that she's a man. Presumably, we can assume that this is suggesting that that is male genitalia flapping against her skirt/dress. And the way this is edited is incredibly convincing. Watch how they keep zooming in to her crotchal reason, which is scientific evidence. There's the zooms, keeps getting closer, more convincing. So you see something like this and you have to wonder, is that proof? I would say, before we look at what Candace says in her evidence, I would say that video is absolutely not proof. Does it look like what's suggested could possibly be the case? That could be. It certainly doesn't prove it. But if you've ever worn clothing, you'll understand that fabric can have like folds in it. And especially when you move, it moves the fabric. So I don't know that I'm on board saying that this is proof. Especially after this video broke the internet with claim she's a man. I don't know. That video didn't break the internet. It's still working for me. And all around the internet, we're also seeing news stories, not just Twitter stories covering it. French President Macron slams baseless rumors that his wife is transgender. Sounds like he's guilty. Or innocent. I don't know. We'll find out. We probably won't, but we'll have opinions on it. And then this article, Emmanuel Macron finally responds to rumors his wife is trans. Well, let's hear his side of this story before we hear largely what Candace Owens has to say. Macron said, presumably in French, the worst thing is the false information and fabricated scenarios. Whoa, he sounds like he's being transphobic, if you catch my drift. People eventually believe them and disturb you, even in your intimacy. Why would that be disturbing if you're not transphobic, Macron? Aren't you supposed to be leftist, toe the WEF-DEI line? But by the way, this original story about accusing Macron's wife, France's First Lady, of being a man broke, I believe, in 2021. The two people that started the rumors, they've been kind of like the French courts have gone after them, mostly with fines. A lot of the fines were suspended. And you could say, well, that proves that they're wrong. Or you could say that proves the establishment is trying to silence them. So in Candace's video, she goes through her evidence and just brief summary before we look at some of it ourselves. Her evidence is there's a lack of early photos of Macron. So allegedly before the age of 30, photos of Macron, the First Lady, don't exist. Kind of rhymes with the Michelle Obama scenario, doesn't it? She goes through a photographic analysis suggesting that some of the photos claiming to be her as a kid are not necessarily her, or she's a boy in the photos. There's genealogical research, legal and police actions against journalists, and inconsistencies she finds. And in summary, Candace emphasizes that despite the sensational nature of the claims, the evidence and actions, or lack thereof, from the Macron camp lead her to believe there is credibility to the theory. And she does invite people to critically think for themselves, which is something I would invite you to do as well. But let's get to the evidence, because Candace's words on Twitter is she's staking her entire professional reputation on this story being true, which, by the way, anybody can say the story somehow is proved to be not true. She still has her entire professional reputation. Like, no one comes, loan sharks or gambling debt collectors, they don't come along and like get your professional reputation and take it away. It might be discrediting in the eyes of some, but you know, anybody can say, I stake my entire reputation on this, like Candace has. Let's take a look at some of her evidence.
She is 70 years old, allegedly, and he is just 46 years old. So already right there, you have a 24-year age gap between them. And at the very least, just looking into their love story, you're looking at what might be, because they change the age throughout the years, a story of pedophilia. I'll tell you what their official narrative has been.
If their rumors are true that they met when he was 15 and she was 39, yeah, does that math add up? Probably. And he was her student, that qualifies as that accusation, but she might just be a minor attracted person, which would make everything not only okay, it would make it virtuous.
The official narrative is that when Emmanuel was just 15 years old, he was a drama student at a school, and his teacher was Brigitte.
So that might be character discreditization, which I think is relevant. Let's hear more about the male accusations.
So that's the background story. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter. It happened so long ago. Now she's the first lady. We should celebrate her. No, some major update now happening. Major update. So let me tell you about how I happened upon this story. There was just an article that was published in the Daily Mail. Here is the headline. The proof France's first lady wasn't born a man. What? I was going, what? So I, of course, instantly read it, because what a bizarre thing that you're even needing to present proof that Brigitte Macron was not born a man.
I do find that kind of bizarre. You could look at that as like, hey, there were rumors going around and the France establishment wanted to put the rumors to rest. So they were publishing that article back in 2021 as like a course correction or put down these negative rumors. But also the way I distrust the media, I get suspicious about everything. I could also look at that article and say like, oh, like, that is pretty suspicious. They would just come out and say like, here's proof that she's a man. Like, what are you trying to hide? Media, you tend to try to hide and deceive with almost everything you publish.
Brigitte Macron, when she was a little girl sitting on her mom's lap. But when I saw this photo, the first thing I noticed was that the person on the far left, the boy, that actually looks like Brigitte Macron.
So Candace is saying this is allegedly France's first lady on Mama's lap. And she's saying, oh, this boy in the photo looks more like Brigitte. So I believe Candace is implying like they're deceiving you. Here's a childhood photo of her being a boy, rather than the kind of narrative being like, oh, this little girl is the first lady.
I don't see any resemblance there with the little girl. They show the second photo, debunking another young photo allegedly of Brigitte Macron. But I thought when I looked at this photo that this looks way too new to be a photo of a 70-year-old when they were a child. Now, again, these are my thought processes.
Yeah, fair enough. I love how she owns it. That's her thought process, suggesting that this photo, allegedly taken, if she's 70 now, this would have been maybe 60 years ago, saying like, oh no, that photo looks too new. I don't necessarily get that when I see this, but we're looking at Candace's thought processes here.
So the quote-unquote conspiracy theory is actually a 3-year thorough investigation that was conducted by journalists that were working with genealogists. It was published in 6 issues in Faits et Documents. I'm sorry, my French is not that good, but they published 6 issues unpacking what they had discovered after a 3-year investigation. And here is what they are saying, right? So again, I'm going to say allegedly, but this is what they have published. Their theory is that the First Lady, Brigitte Macron, was actually born Jean-Michel. So Brigitte is actually John Michael.
Now that's interesting. I haven't seen this research publication with my own eyes, and I probably won't because I have other things to do. But based on the fact that they took 3 years to do this research with genealogists, I find that pretty interesting to consider.
Michael lived as a man for 30 years, fathered 5 children, and then transitioned at the age of 30 to become Brigitte. Okay, now I'm just going to show you this before and after photo, just right here. They actually used, as a part of their investigation, Chinese software. And this is a side-by-side. It is such a dead ringer. It's crazy to me.
Okay, so this is allegedly her France's first lady, sort of modern day. Doesn't really look like a lady in that photo, to be honest with you. And then that first photo we saw where Candace was saying, no, that girl in the picture who's allegedly the first lady, I don't think so. I think that boy on the left-hand side is. Here we have red circles, a red rectangle, and 2 red arrows indicating some forensics analysis. I find any photo, like you put some circles on it and arrows, it kind of looks pretty official, as does this. But what do you think?
That you would not say that these 2 individuals look alike. This is potentially the same individual age. So on the left, what I'm showing you is John Michael. On the right is a photo of the First Lady, okay?
Now, that's all interesting. Let's take a look at the alleged inconsistencies.
These efforts when you could just show photos. But of course, obviously, to tell a lie this big, you'd have to have a very good memory. This is actually something that Judge Judy used to say. I used to love watching Judge Judy when I was young with my grandma. And she used to say, you know, if you don't lie, you don't have to have a good memory. But if you lie, you got to have a very good memory. And what keeps happening throughout the years of her being the First Lady, so since 2017, every time the First Lady tells a story about herself in her childhood, the math doesn't quite math.
It doesn't add up with Biden either with his stories.
For example, she recalled living alone in the United States during Neil Armstrong's moon landing in 1969. The only problem is that she would have been just 16 years old. What? 16-year-old living alone in the United States? But if the theory is true, that she's actually Jean-Michel, who is 8 years older, which would make the First Lady 78 years old today, then that story would make perfect sense. Because, of course, you could live alone when you are 24 years old in the United States. Again, there are multiple examples of the First Lady just being too young in terms of the past stories that she keeps telling.
Okay, so those are the highlights of Candace's evidence that caused her to stake her entire professional career on this story being true. Are you convinced that Macron's wife, the First Lady of France, is a man? I'll let you know my opinion in a second. By the way, I also invite you that you can watch Candace's full video on her YouTube channel. But first, let me show you this. And this video has relevance here with a parallel story of Big Mike Obama kind of thing. So keep in mind, this is what some people would consider to be persuasive material that Michelle Obama is a man. Take a look.
Michelle Obama is a reptilianoid. Look at this video of her dancing on The Ellen Show. You will see something swinging in her pants. Now, if that's not her reptilian tail tucked in, I don't know what that is. There's been many instances of Obama calling her Michael instead of Michelle.
When Michelle's mad, Deborah, Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
Could it be that Michael is her reptilian brotherhood name? Tell me that, Mr. Obama.
Ominous questions with a decent video edit. Are you convinced? I don't know. In conclusion, my opinion on this story, everything in this story looks like the old saying, you find what you're looking for. If you want evidence that Macron's wife is a man, you're going to find evidence that seemingly supports that. Proof is a different story. If you're looking for evidence that she's a woman, you're going to find that. If you want evidence that she's a reptilian hominid like Michelle Obama, you're going to find that. You always have to keep in mind, we always find what we're looking for. Based on what I've seen from Candace's video and looking at some other things on the internet, based on what I've seen, I'm not convinced that she's a man. Now, I say that with a heavy heart because as someone who looks at the mainstream media, the narrative, and I have full distrust of it, it can be tempting to just automatically, whatever the narrative is, and they're coming out and saying, no, she's definitely a woman, it can be tempting to just mindlessly believe the polar opposite of that, which would be me abandoning my critical thinking and letting my thinking basically be based off of defiance of whatever they're saying, which means they are controlling my thinking. It's just not out of agreement with it. It's just out of automatic, mindless disagreement. So, but it's still them that I'm orbiting rather than my own sovereign thought. So it's tempting to just always believe the opposite. Like the government says aliens don't exist. I'm like, dude, they definitely exist. And now they're like, oh, they exist. I'm like, dude, I don't believe in aliens anymore. I'm also not convinced that she's a woman. Do I believe that people in power, especially establishment elites that are really dutiful to the World Economic Forum, do I believe that they're capable of telling a lie this big? Yeah, absolutely. I believe they're capable of telling lies that are way bigger and way more relevant than this. I haven't seen proof either way. It honestly, doesn't super affect my life, but if these kind of slime balls are deceiving people, I want them to be called out on this. I'll continue to monitor the situation here at headquarters. And, if there is something that comes across as looking like proof to me, I want to pay attention to that. But as of right now, everything I've seen, my opinion is it's just evidence supporting what people are looking for. So with that said, let me know your thoughts on Macron's First Lady accusations of being a man. Let me know in the comments what you think. What are you convinced of at this point? And if you're like, oh, JP, you're a sheep because you don't automatically think she's a guy, let me know that in the comments as well. That might be true. I hope it's not. I haven't eaten grass today or grown any wool, so I guess that's my evidence that I'm not a sheep. But I don't have proof I'm not a sheep. See you soon, my friend. But before you go, here's a special message not brought to you by Illuminati reptilianoids. If you've been watching me for a while, you've heard me talking about the Wellness Company's emergency medical kit. Now, this next product is one that I believe every red-blooded American should have and be taking regularly. Why? Because if you're not thinking something is up at this point, with so many previously healthy people experiencing things like myocarditis, strokes, heart attacks, blood clots, turbo cancers, you're clearly not paying attention. Many experts who aren't bought and paid for believe that spike protein is the culprit. Spike protein is a lingering threat from the you-know-what and the man-made you-know-what. It's linked to all kinds of long-term health issues, and even Pfizer is now admitting that it's a problem. Many freedom and medical freedom-loving people have been looking for the answer. Well, the answer's here: spike support. Whether you used to be a compliant person or you did not comply all along, people have been looking for answers, and thanks to the Wellness Company, there is an answer. You don't have to be helpless anymore. Spike support is a blend of natural ingredients designed to dissolve and block spike proteins. Reclaim your health by going to twc.health/JPReacts and use code JPReacts at checkout for 15% off. In this fight for truth and medical freedom, you owe it to yourself and your family to take back control of your health. And you can do so at twc.health/JPReacts.